Hello everyone, this is Pendy.
This is Paul, also known as EastX Twitch.
You know, we need more listeners for this podcast. What do you think we could do about it?
I'll probably regret this. Let's try the Hocus Pocus spell again and see what happens.
Okay, Hocus Pocus!
Did it do anything?
I don't know. We didn't get transported anywhere like last time. Wait a minute. Wow, I've gained a bunch of extra levels.
Just you? That's not very fair. Did you learn any new spells or skills that might help our situation?
Well, sure. First, there's this.
Why am I meowing? And I have the urge to lick my arms. Did you cast Be Cat on me?
Yeah, I guess that's not too useful. Well, how about this?
I love Dragon Quest Your Story. It's the best movie ever. The ending isn't stupid at all. Wait, what? I hate that movie. What have you done to me?
That was called Your Isekai. It forces you to like Dragon Quest Your Story.
Feels so dirty. All right, enough fooling around. Do a real spell that will help us already.
Okay, Awaji! Oh, goddess. I immediately regret this. Your breath smells like onions.
Oh no, I also hate onions. If we were doing this live, we'd lose fans. Have you learned anything useful at all?
How about, Cuphiss? It makes you pee your pants. Everyone will laugh and we'll get more listeners.
Oh no, you don't. Keep looking for something more useful, you weirdo. Ahem. While Pendy is searching for a more useful spell, I'll welcome everyone to Alltrades DQ Media Abbey, a Slime Time podcast spin-off where we review various Dragon Quest media, including manga and anime.
We are currently reviewing a Dragon Quest-inspired parody show called the Hero Yoshihiko and the Dragon Quest X tie-in manga, Rooming with a Gamer Gal. We'll start with Yoshihiko first. We gotta seal those monsters away.
That's right, and we're looking at the Hero Yoshihiko Season 2, Episode 10. We pick up where the last episode left off, with Yoshihiko and his party having arrived in the Demon Realm, where they're getting blasted by mysterious fireballs. After being fireballed and mocked for a while by the castle's imp, the team decides to retreat and consult the Great Buddha. He tells them to use the Staff of Change to sneak into the castle. The party then heads to a town to gather information. When they arrive, Yoshihiko wanders off alone onto the nearby beach. There, he finds a beach house where the owner knows about the Staff of Change. However, the owner has gone away for a few days. Yoshihiko waits around and settles into modern beach house life, working to help Lime, a girl who lives there, found an FM radio station. The owner of the beach house returns, but Yoshihiko is embroiled in the drama going on there. The Buddha appears and puts Yoshihiko back on mission. He reunites with the party, and they procure the Staff of Change. Meanwhile, Yoshihiko's sister, Hisa, gets captured at Destark's castle. What will become of her in the next episode, which is the season finale?
So I thought this episode was okay. There were parts I really liked, but I was bored by the beach house drama. I did love the imp at the beginning, even though he was missing the signature wings. Between his color, costume, and penchant for big spells, you could tell that's what he was. Though in the games, it's the advanced variations of the imp that can do the big spells. Regular imps usually try to do big spells, but comically can't cast them because they don't have enough MP. As they've done before, this imp was an obvious Monty Python and the Holy Grail reference. This one is a reference to the Frenchman who insult King Arthur in the movie. The imp even uses the insult, telling the hero that his mother was a hamster. Here, though, instead of saying the hero smells of elderberries, they go with a more regional choice of crayfish. I do love their play on the joke by having the imp making increasingly rambling insults that don't really go anywhere. Like last season, the party ends up in a modern Japanese city. This time, the inhabitants are monsters disguised as humans for some reason. In-world, it doesn't make much sense, but probably saves the show money this way. After all, this show's a low-budget comedy. I do love that the good guys are trying to get a Staff of Change to disguise themselves as monsters and sneak into the castle. Dragon Quest veterans will recognize this scenario from Dragon Quest IV, where you do this same scheme. It's also great to see them reference the bit where they befriended a slime many episodes ago. I remember commenting about that. I was like, I wonder if this comes into play later. And it does. Apparently, the party had made a full wagon of monster friends, but of course, they accidentally killed almost all of them in the back of that sweltering hot wagon. The melted slime was a nice touch, too. The next part is where I dislike this episode the most. The entire beach house plot. When they do plots like this that aren't Dragon Quest or RPG related, I get kind of bored. Similar to the episode that parodied Japanese school dramas. Thankfully, the Buddha makes an appearance to get Yoshihiko back on track. Seeing him comically make his way off the jet ski and sock Yoshihiko was particularly satisfying satisfying since it meant that he was closing out the beach house drama part of the episode. A scene in the middle of all this involves the rest of the party eating at a restaurant. I love how a group of monsters is just casually dining next to them. And then there's the weesh, sweesh, and ka-sweesh spells that is a great bit too, as well. As the party heads to an island on a boat, the battle that ensues is great. It's hilarious that Murasaki is surprised that the ocean has monsters as well, and that Melub gets paralyzed by a man of war, something that they also do in the Dragon Quest series. They also run into the One Piece gang. Now, I'm really not that into the anime at all, but the reference and the Yoshihiko's hero's rejection of the gang is still very amusing. Finally, it's interesting that they advertised the companion book to the show at the end of the episode. As you may remember, I bought this book for myself not too long ago. I wonder if companion books for Japanese TV shows like this are common. I don't really know.
I think they are, but at least for popular anime and such, they are.
Oh, okay, cool. Didn't know that.
This episode is introduced by a soft-served spook, a monster from Dragon Quest X. In Japanese, they're called Whipu Ghost, Whip Ghost. The monsters in its family have dessert-themed names, including Chocolate Whip and Red Pudding.
Yummy.
Yes, definitely. The Whip Ghost looks like a floating ice cream-shaped ghost with an irritated facial expression. Later in the episode, the Whip Ghost is one of the monsters that has died in the party's wagon. Poor little guy.
Oh, and they could have shown him like melted like the slime. Oh well.
Probably be hard to recognize though.
That's true.
I didn't actually realize that was a slime until you pointed it out. Then I went back and looked.
Oh yeah.
Now, unlike you, Mr. Cranky Pendy, I greatly enjoyed Yoshihiko's subplot in this episode. I love seeing Yoshihiko playing on the beach with Kosuke and his adopted sister, Lime. I wouldn't have minded if Yoshihiko had ended up having to defeat the goons that tried to chase the family out of the beach house. This subplot doesn't seem to be directly parodying anything, but it's a fun human story, if you ask me.
Boo.
Naturally, I disliked the resolution to the beach house plot, even though I predicted how it would go. The Great Buddha uses his Buddha beam to reset Yoshihiko again. This undermines Yoshihiko as a character, and they definitely shouldn't have done it more than once in this series. This is at least the third time. Yoshihiko ends up being rude to Lime and her family as a result of the mind wipe too, after they just spent several minutes of the show building up a nice relationship. But his memories haven't been 100% wiped, it turns out. He does mention to Lime that she's not Kosuke's real sister, paving the way for Kosuke to admit his romantic feelings to her. Still, this is done in passing, so there's not much emotional relief from the revelation.
And who knows, they may have all died from the monsters that were trying to take over the beach house and build a resort or something. So we don't know.
Get killed by the gangsters. Yeah, that would suck.
Right? We don't know.
And you mentioned the One Piece thing. I forgot to look up all the characters' names because, like, I enjoyed the Netflix live action One Piece, but they're taking forever between seasons. I think it's going to be like 3 years between season 1 and season 2.
Oh,
so I've had plenty of time to forget all their names. But I mean, they do seem to be in fairly authentic costumes, especially the main guy.
Oh yeah, as far as I could tell from what I've seen from the anime and the live action, I was like, oh, I recognize these guys. I couldn't tell you what their names are except for Luffy.
Yeah,
but that was about it.
Yeah, and he looked good. But that took place in the water, and in the boat, the heroes fight 3 Dragon Quest monsters. One is the Man of War that you mentioned earlier, which is a member of the Heel Slime family that was introduced in Dragon Quest II. In Japan, the monster is usually called Shibire Kurage, meaning numb jellyfish. In the Japanese version of Dragon Quest VII, however, it was called Numb Slime. Just the one game where they call it something different. Fun trivia. The second monster is the Merman, whose name is the same in English and Japanese. He debuted in Dragon Quest III and looks like a blue, scaly humanoid with a fishtail. The third monster of the trio is a gargoyle, which also has the same name in both languages. He is a blue humanoid with a beak, 2 horns, and wings, who wears a purple tunic and wields a sword. The gargoyle is introduced in Dragon Quest II.
And that was one of the first monsters that Dai defeats in the Adventure of Dai on Germline Island.
Exactly, it's just what I was going to say. So.
Oh, sorry. I stole your thunder.
No. I mean, it's good that you know that too. Yeah. So nice to see a gargoyle in this show.
Yeah.
As the audience can surely tell, this episode was a real treat for monster spotting. The episode ends with Hisa getting knocked out by a cyclops. This is one of the few times where the Hisa ending scene actually ties into the main plot, and it will be paid off somewhat in the next episode.
And I don't know if they were doing it for comical effect, but like when Hisa gets knocked out and when the Buddha socks it to Yoshihiko, you can tell that those are like really bad fake punches. There's like a huge space in between like where they're making contact and where the person is. I don't understand why they didn't do a camera angle that would make it more realistic, but whatever. Maybe I don't know. That was my one complaint about that.
Well, I'm sure it's all part of the cheapness of the show. They're like, okay, let's just move on.
Yeah, they might be playing that up like, oh, this looks really fake because we're a low budget comedy or whatever. Maybe that was the point. But on to the next episode, which is season 2, episode 11, this season finale. finale starts with the heroes using the Staff of Change to sneak in as slimes. As soon as they find Deathstark, Yoshihiko challenges the boss. This proves unwise, and Deathstark ends up killing the entire party in one blast. Our hero wakes up revived in a nearby church, where the priest revives the party for free since Deathstark is going to eliminate him. The party will no longer be able to be resurrected since the church is closing. Unsure of how to proceed, Murasaki tries her Hocus Pocus spell. This gives Melub 20 extra levels and lots of spells, all of which are useless. The next day, Yoshihiko wakes up on a beach. He finds the Buddha, who tells him that Deathstark has invaded Yoshihiko's mind. To survive Deathstark's attacks, Yoshihiko needs the Orb of Light from Deathstark's older brother. Yoshihiko and the party wake up and search many caves, but end up finding the missing brother in the closet of a nearby inn in a nearby town. They retrieve the Orbs of Light and confront Deathstark. However, the foe who previously defeated them is not Deathstark at all. It's the penguin Yoshihiko saved in a previous episode, who we now learn was later taken over by evil forces. He leads Yoshihiko to the real Deathstark. Deathstark blasts the penguin away and proceeds to invade the mind of everyone but Yoshihiko, putting them in a fantasy world. Yoshihiko resists the attack, and in the midst of battle, Murasaki wakes up and seemingly uses Hocus Pocus to blast Deathstark to dust. However, Deathstark has a larger, more imposing form that threatens to kill everyone. The penguin recovers and then carries Yoshihiko up to pierce the red jewel on Deathstark that is the source of the evil demon possessing him. This last-ditch attack kills Yoshihiko and the penguin. Deathstark is defeated, the monsters are sealed away, and the heroes return to the surface world. Without any connection to this current world, the three surviving heroes ask the Buddha to send them back to heaven. However, the Buddha mistakenly revives Yoshihiko instead, and they decide to live on and continue adventuring together.
This episode's introduction comes from a skeleton soldier or a skeleton swordsman. They look very similar. They debuted in the first Dragon Quest, and they both carry a sword. I didn't realize that episode 11 would be the season finale. I expected this season to have 12 episodes like seasons 1 and 3 have. For some reason, this episode only has 11. But the episode is 10 minutes longer than normal. That's better than nothing, I suppose.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
In this episode, the subtitling team calls Melub Merub, unlike previous episodes. The Japanese R sound can be translated as either R or L when translating to English. It's an easy mistake to make, so we mustn't pick on the translators too much. Japanese is deliberately difficult after all. Melub casts a spell called Kateshi on Murasaki. Kateshi is the Japanese way of saying courtesy. Kates, yeah, because they can't say C, so they say she, so Kateshi, like that. Anyway, the spell makes Murasaki twitch her shoulder and insult others. As far as I can tell, the spell isn't a reference to anything like I thought it would have been. It's just a spell with an ironic name. You know, it's called courtesy, but it makes you uncourteous, discourteous.
Got it.
Melub also casts Kakrap on Yoshihiko, making him have to use the bathroom. These spells both feel like Melub is bullying his friends, but he reverses them before very long. The scenes where the heroes travel as slimes through a courtyard of monsters are full of delicious monster eye candy. We get to see just about all of the show's monster costumes, including 2 different types of zombies, a fun ghoul, a liquid metal slime, several muddy hands, and more. That said, a few CG renders of monsters are inserted into the shot, such as a bomb boulder, which is the red variant of a rock bomb, a drooling ghoul, which is a brown little humanoid with pointed ears and a long tongue, and a frostburn, a blue variant of the dancing flame. It's nice to have more monsters in the scene, but I'd rather they were physical costumes or props instead of cheap effects, you know? If you ask me, I would say just leave them out, because they're distracting. Finally, I know, Pendy, you don't like the CG final form of Deathstark, but I think it looks a lot better than the final form from the first season. Like, this season simply has more money than season 1 did, you know? You could tell it various times.
Yeah, it's a little more, has a little more shape to it than just like the kind of blob that was the season 1 final form of the boss. I'll give it that.
There you go. Yeah, we don't see it much. It's realistic enough for me.
Yeah.
I'm glad the season doesn't end with everybody dying or parting ways. It's better for the band to stick together, darn it.
Yeah, I love this finale for the season. I think I liked it even more than the finale for season 1. My only complaint is that Yoshihiko's sister is underutilized here. She just plays the damsel in distress and doesn't do anything beyond that. And where did she go after Deathstark was defeated? We see her freed from the monsters, and then who knows? As she also has no connection to the present world where they are in, you'd think she would want to travel on with Yoshihiko and his friends, or she could at least spy on them from a distance like she always does. That's just my one nitpick of the episode. On to what I loved. First is the party of slimes. Yoshihiko and friends all made into slimes with some of their physical characteristics was great. For a low-budget show, I was even impressed on how the staff got the slimes to slide up those stairs at one point too. They should have made a set of figures for the party of slimes. It would have been been terrific. Now, why do they call Deathstark an emperor? Because he's an emperor penguin, of course. I did like this corny joke instead of the weird final boss costume they came up with last season. Or at least so I thought, until I found out later he's not the real Deathstark at all. The real Deathstark's design, not too bad. Creepy burnt skeleton with an Egyptian motif. A bit better than last year. He kind of looks like a typical Power Rangers Super Sentai villain, for better or worse. And the final form, like we were talking about before, is kind of a CGI mess, but serviceable. I love how when the party dies and goes to the church, the priest just starts listing out all the options you would expect in a Dragon Quest game before getting to the resurrection for money option. Save, remove curse, and the fact that Maylube would only cost 6 gold to revive is hilarious. I don't think the disparity in cost to revive everyone is quite as large as last season. Yoshihiko has no way to get all the gold he needs, unlike last time, but he's saved by a clearance sale, and it's fun how they phrased it that way. Like last season, this final boss is voiced by another famous actor. This time, it's Miyu Urino, who you may know as Haku, the boy who could transform into a dragon in Spirited Away. I'm guessing the Orb of Light references the Spear of Light used to help weaken and defeat Zoma in Dragon Quest III. Of course, it turns out to be 2 Orbs of Light in the most disturbing way possible. I appreciate the scenes where they use Dragon Quest-like graphics to show the heroes searching the various caves, or when they return to the surface world. Honestly, they could do a whole episode like that, and I would be happy. The various fantasy worlds that everyone gets put into by Deathstark are a lot of fun. You know, there's Murasaki with her idol fantasy surrounded by fans waving around the glow sticks, and the lyrics are hilarious as she criticizes the audience's headbands. Danjo is having fun as a horse trainer, and then Maylube is living out my fantasy dream, waking up early and realizing that you can sleep another hour before actually getting up. True bliss. I also enjoy how Yoshihiko rides on the back of the penguin, who can somehow fly to defeat Deathstark. It's quite comical. And I enjoy the ending of him mistakenly getting revived and how they all decided to continue living and traveling together. I think a much better ending than season 1. Finally, the end credits are fun as they have little fun symbols throughout, including little slime symbols in the credits, and seeing all the monsters and the Buddha walk or float along with the heroes, where normally you just see the 4 of them kind of walk along at the end of an episode. I look forward to the next and final season.
Yes, those were good end credits. Now we come to Rooming with a Gamer Gal, the Dragon Quest X themed manga. We start with Server 57, Family Marriage Announcement Quest, Powder Side, Part 2. In the previous chapter, Satsuki started his side of the announcement quest by calling his parents to tell them about his engagement, and they decided to visit him the following day. This chapter starts with Satsuki working at his job looking really depressed. His boss, Uchida, comments on his glumness and assumes it's due to marriage blues, worrying about the future and about getting married. However, Takumi is actually worrying about having to see his parents after work. He's worried about them taking a hands-on approach to the wedding. When they arrive, things do go a bit haywire. The parents trick Satsuki into going to a hospital because they think his fiancée is imaginary. Thankfully, their son manages to prove Miyako's existence with a picture and a quick phone call. His parents are very relieved and happy for him. Later, Satsuki and Miyako celebrate clearing the announcement quest. Then they start to talk about next steps. Miyako brings up the possibility of having kids, which completely confuses Satsuki.
Oh god, this whole scenario was just wild. I thought it was going to be some jokes about Satsuki's girlfriend possibly being fake, and one or both of the parents having some funny quirks or something like that. I was not expecting them to trick him into going to a hospital to have him evaluated. I mean, good job on the author for coming up with that. It was great. And then Satsuki's reaction to the reality of possibly having kids was hilarious, especially the bit about worrying in terms of Dragon Quest X and having a mixed race puppet ogre child. Hopefully he comes to his senses in the next server. And on a side note, this chapter's cover illustration is a 2-page spread where Satsuki is shown walking next to Miyako. I had to think to myself, is he really that much taller than her? I really hadn't noticed that before.
Funny you should ask. I went back and found some panels in Server 39 that demonstrate their differences in height. The image that stuck out in my mind is when Satsuki started planning his move and worrying about missing Miyako. She eventually knocks on his door, admits that she'll miss him too, and gives him a big hug. He's depicted as being over a head taller than Miyako. So the 2-page spread in Server 57 checks out.
And I see you put that picture of that in our little outline, and I appreciate that because you are correct. So thank you for looking that up. That is true. I just forgot that he was that tall.
Well, it's been a while since we saw them together, right? Because now they're living apart.
That's true. They have a remote relationship right now.
For better or worse. Anyway, this chapter finally reveals the visages of Satsuki's parents. Their faces were covered in the previous chapter. Mr. Takumi has dark hair and a thin mustache and goatee that don't don't connect to each other. Mrs. Takumi has lighter hair, but not blonde hair like Miyako's, that is short and closely resembles Satsuki's hair, but neater. Both of them have age lines around their eyes, and Mr. Takumi also has lines on his forehead. It seems that they really have worked hard to provide for Satsuki's future. They're both so happy that they're crying when they learn that Miyako really exists. Like, it's funny, but it's also touching.
Yeah, and I think they just seem to be a little bit older than Miyako's parents as far as they're drawn. I could be wrong.
It seems it's probably that and a combination of the whole they were never around because they were always working stuff. Emotional moments aside, this is one of the funniest chapters so far. The Takumi's tricking Satsuki into seeing a doctor at the hospital is just the funniest thing. Their son is such a loner / loser that they can't imagine he really found someone, a gorgeous girl to boot. I would have been annoyed if Satsuki hadn't found a picture of him and Miyako, considering that we saw them take one when they visited the amusement park. Satsuki looks nice and bedraggled in the photo, whereas Miyako is just cheerful and beautiful, and they're posing behind a pair of Moogles in a hatching chocobo from Final Fantasy. I winced at the end of the chapter though, because I just knew Satsuki would get hung up on the possibility of having kids. He still hasn't even kissed Miyako on the lips, as far as we know. Of course, he's going to be mental about this new development.
Oh my god, I keep forgetting that. That's right. That was like one of my biggest complaints in the past. Is like, you seem to be in such a serious relationship, but you haven't kissed on the lips yet. It's so anime manga.
Bro.
But next is server 58, following after that person. In this server, Satsuki is contemplating the idea of having kids. It distracts him so much that he almost forgets to take his lunch break at work. He compares his predicament to the protagonist of Dragon Quest V. Satsuki feels a strong connection to how he felt when dealing with that situation when he played the game as a kid. Later on, we see that Miyako has come to visit him for the New Year's holiday. She takes Satsuki to an ice skating rink there in Osaka. It's Satsuki's first time on the ice. He tells her to go on without him because he will fall so many times. However, she tells him that she will help him back up as many times as needed. Satsuki then realizes that he might not be in the same mindset as Miyako, but he will get there in time.
The title page of this chapter is probably the most exciting thing in it, but we'll discuss that in a minute. The next page confuses me because it refers to the protagonists as Satsuki Takumi and Okamoto Miyako. I've always assumed that Satsuki is the dude's first name and Miyako is the dudette's. Okamoto does not sound like a first name. I'm betting that the translator made a mistake here. Japanese people always list their last names before their first names, and then English translators often change the order to the one that we use. There's always a chance for error when doing this. The brunt of the blame should fall on Japan for being difficult.
And their system of language that is all based on politeness, which can be very confusing when you're trying to learn it.
Sure can.
Yeah.
As expected, Satsuki spends the whole chapter worrying about having kids. Doesn't seem like he's worried about the process by which babies are made, surprisingly. It's just because obviously he's going to have trouble with that too, I would assume.
I know, it's just the idea of kids. It's just like, it doesn't even, the idea of like, oh, wait a minute, what do I have to do to make kids? What? But no, you're right.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea of having kids bothers him, but he doesn't elaborate on which aspects of that make him uncomfortable. Is it creating life, having to take care of someone, losing your freedom, disappear? Oh, diapers? Who knows? Anyway, the chapter balances Satsuki's worries and Dragon Quest V themed memories with the date at the ice skating rink. As usual, Satsuki is afraid of holding someone back, so he tells Miyako to skate on without him. Thankfully, she is super supportive and won't leave him behind. She's definitely an amazing catch for neurotic Satsuki.
True. I enjoy how Satsuki compares his situation to the protagonist of Dragon Quest V and how he felt about that character having kids during the course of the game. Ultimately, he sees Miyako as similar to that protagonist and wants to work towards reaching her mindset. It's a fun way to show what Satsuki is going through in his mind. I love it when they do that in this manga. It's also interesting that the title page of this server mentions the live action drama based on the manga. If there are fan subtitles out there for it, maybe we'll review that next after we are done with the Hero Yoshihiko.
We'd better.
Yeah!
Now we come to Server 59, Mario-kun's first step. Now that the announcement quest is over, we turn back to Mario's adventures in trying to court Shinoda. He cleans his room to prepare for her coming over to play Dragon Quest X. They meet outside and get some food before making their way to Mario's place. There, they start to play Dragon Quest X and have a great time together. As Mario builds up the courage to ask Shinoda if she has a boyfriend, she emphasizes how great it is to have him as a friend, to have a male friend at last. This discourages Mario, so he decides not to ask the question. Instead, he asks asks if she likes dogs or cats, and they plan a future trip to a pet store.
We are back to Mario and Shinoda's story, and I can't say I'm upset about it. Both of them have grown on me as we've gotten to know them better. It's fun to see Mario treat cleaning up his place as a quest, referring to garbage as solidified miasma, and using an imaginary magic seal to close a closet of junk. Later on, they really emphasize McDonald's in this server. It makes me wonder, A, did McDonald's sponsor this story? And B, is eating fast food while gaming an exciting activity for some people? I guess. Shinoda seems really excited to try it out for the first time. After Mario wimps out on taking the next step with Shinoda, he asks her if she prefers cats or dogs, and they set up a get-together at a pet shop. I was kind of surprised at that. Pet shops can be fun, but I figured they would go to like a cat cafe. Those are all over Japan and can be quite the experience for people who like cats. I've been to a couple in the Tokyo area myself, and they were a lot of fun. One of them was actually run by a woman who used the business to find homes for many stray cats in the area. It was nice.
That sounds like a fun place to visit.
Yeah.
When the cat thing comes up, Mario considers getting a cat in order to impress Shinoda. I guess visiting a pet shop is the logical next step then. He doesn't want to just pet kitties, he wants to have one at his place that she'll enjoy visiting. So that's my explanation. I also enjoy the return to Mario and Shinoda. On the one hand, it slows down the progression of the main couple's relationship, but on the other hand, this book's author is really good at building up to the start of a romance, so I'm glad to see this new romance slowly develop. It's a downer that Shinoda started talking so much about being friends. Was she trying to prevent Mario from getting the wrong idea? Girls sometimes do that here in the States. On the other hand, it's possible that Shinoda hasn't even considered the possibility that Mario would like her romantically, and so she's just enjoying the novelty of having a guy pal. But, sometimes we criticize the characters in this story for being too shy or, socially stunted or whatever. But if I had been planning to ask a question that moves towards the direction of romance and a girl said what Shinoda said, I actually wouldn't ask the question right then either. Like she made it so that it wasn't the right time.
Yes, I don't know if she banished him to the friend zone, but it certainly seemed like that might have been the case. So I don't blame him for kind of taking pause for a little bit.
For real. We'll have to see where things go in future chapters.
Yeah.
The McDonald's element that you mentioned could be a promotion, but it could also just be Japanese people seeing that restaurant chain differently than how we see it here.
True.
It's not unusual to take McDonald's food home in the US, but Shinoda says that she's only had Mickey D's 3 times ever. I guess that explains her healthy physique, but the McDonald's bags were drawn super accurately, so that could it could indicate they at least got permission, I'm sure.
Yeah. So we've got some big news concerning The Adventure of Dai, everybody.
You thought it was all over? Apparently not.
We recently found out that Viz is continuing the manga series of The Adventure of Dai in English after a very long absence.
They stopped after Volume 5 way back in November 2022. Now Dai will return with Volume 6 in the spring of 2026.
I was honestly shocked to see this. It's been so many years that I had given up on any more of the manga being published. It's also nice to see it will continue to be published physically too. I'm very excited to start reading it again.
I'm hyped as well. When the manga first started coming out in English, it was too close to us watching the anime, so it was a bit repetitive to read. Admittedly, there are some differences, but still, most of it was the same, right?
Yeah, it was a faithful adaptation, so it was very similar.
Yeah, but now that we've had some time away from Dai, it will be exciting to return to it.
Hear, hear. And hey, maybe we can start up some more Die Another Day episodes where we review the manga specifically.
Only if you remember to hit the record button this time.
Ooh.
And with that, we wrap this episode of Alltrades DQ Media Abbey. If you want to prepare for our next episode, be sure to watch Season 3, Episodes 1 and 2 of the Hero Yoshihiko, and read chapters 60 to 62 of Rooming with a Gamer Gal. The Hero Yoshihiko is available with fan subs on the Internet Archive website, where it's called The Brave Yoshihiko, and Rooming with a Gamer Gal is available through the Manga Up app.
We're a non-profit podcast. We won't crap your hard-earned gold when we can offer you quality content for free. But if you do have some extra gold that's just completely burning a hole in your wallet, pouch, hanging wall sack, or treasure chest, and you would like to donate anything to a website that's been supporting Dragon Quest fans for over 25 years, stop by the Dragon's Den by clicking the link in the show notes. There are several ways to support the Den, including the affiliate links that don't cost you anything extra when making other Dragon Quest purchases, especially the upcoming Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake, everybody.
Show us that love, dudes. Speaking of which, we have a cool Slime Time t-shirt and an even cooler Alltrades DQ Media Abbey t-shirt, both designed by our resident artist, Dwayne. And as of recently, we now have stickers.
Stickers!
See the links for all that merch in the show notes.
As part of the Slime Time Extended Universe, or STU, you can direct comments or questions for the podcast on X, Blue Sky, and Instagram at DQ Slime Time.
And you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv twitch.tv/EastX Twitch. Come watch me play a variety of games every Saturday, kids.
Join in tons of Dragon Quest discussion at the Dragon's Den forums and Discord, and the Dragon Questers and Slime Time Facebook groups, plus the new Dragon Questers Discord.
I'd like to thank everyone that made this podcast possible, including Woodus, Dragon's Den, and Jonathan Joss. He was fantastic in King of the Hill and everything he did, and we'll dearly miss him.
R.I.P. Please like, subscribe, and write a review for the podcast.
We'll catch you later, everybody. Don't hate, appreciate.
Time to zoom on out of here.
風がそよいでジャスミンが香る雲が流れてクジラが泳ぐよ芝生に寝転んで君は笑って夕日に染まるゆっくり眠くなる二人は永遠だと信じたいけどいつかは離れ離れにもなるでしょなんてね寂しいこと考えてはあ本気で君を思うどこへも行かないよ君を傷つけるものを私が全部消してあげるどこへも行かないよ君が嬉しいと思うことこの手でたくさん集めてあげる愛してる何も話さない静けさもいい飛行機の音が遠くへ伸びてゆく言葉にするとふわり空気のようにどうして伝わりづらくなるのでしょうこんなに素直な
This is Gertrude for Slime Time, reminding you all that you must complete your adventure.